Cavanaugh's Corner. Today on Cavanaugh's Corner, we're going to be talking to you about a new 4K release that just came out recently. I've been waiting to review this one for a while because, honestly, I really had to watch it twice to get a handle on some of the changes. And I also went back and watched older Blu-ray releases to kind of compare and contrast. And today I'm going to be talking to you about Terminator 2, Judgment Day, the new 4K release from, I think it's Lionsgate? Yeah, Lionsgate Studios put this one out. Terminator 2 and the original Terminator has changed hands quite a lot over the last couple years, but it looks like Lionsgate has owned it now for quite a while, and they've done a pretty good job. So this new version of Terminator 2 is the new 4K transfer that was actually done very recently, supervised by James Cameron, the director. And this is actually a pretty interesting release because the movie was originally done in 4K for a 3D release. And ironically enough, the opening title card of this Blu-ray actually says about the 3D transfer was funded by Studio Canal, which is another studio, I guess, that now has a hand in this Terminator franchise, which is crazy. There's so many different studios now, I've lost track. But basically, this new release is an interesting one because it is fundamentally different than any other version of Terminator 2 that's come before it. And it's good in some ways and not so good in some other ways. Now, the new 4K version is just the theatrical release. It's just the original theatrical release. That original theatrical release isn't so bad. I like it still. It's still a great film. It's too bad they couldn't have the other two versions of the movie on 4K as well. But the secondary disc, the Blu-ray disc, has all the different versions, which I think is pretty cool. And this, again, it's an okay release. This release here, I think the thing that makes it fundamentally different is the fact that it has completely changed in terms of color grading. James Cameron went back and totally redid the color timing and the color grading for this release here. And the movie does have this tealish, like bluish teal tint throughout the entire film. And that teal tint is not the greatest thing in the world for this movie. Some other movies it works fine. For whatever reason, this film here, I think in the opening of the film, it works great. And the flash-forward sequences at the beginning of the film and the Cyberdyne scenes near the end, I think that's when that teal tint is like perfect because you have a lot of blues, you have a lot of halogen bulbs, those that very bright kind of like office setting in the Cyberdyne scenes. I think that new color tint is perfect in those scenes, but everything else, it's very strange to see that bluish teal tint. It's very distracting in certain times, and I think some other parts of the movie, it's very much not necessary, but it is what it is. That's what Cameron wanted, and again, it's, far be it for me to say what is right and wrong. It's his movie. He directed it. He can change it however much he wants. I'm just not a fan of it for this film, probably because I grew up watching this movie and I've seen it more times than I can even count. Probably more times than most movies. I really had a fascination with Terminator 2 when I was younger, and now seeing it in this new 4K format, it's kind of a weird thing. Cameron also went back and fixed some mistakes that were in this movie. For instance, there's a scene where Robert Patrick, the T-1000 in this, is chasing John Connor, and he drives this truck over an overpass, I should say, and drops down into a dam. And during that scene, the original version of the movie, and actually every other version of the movie except for this one now, the windshield falls off. It falls off the truck, and it's very noticeable. I think it happens in close-up, actually. And then the next shot, Robert Patrick is driving the truck, and the windshield's back, and it's a very noticeable mistake. In this version, they digitally change it so the windshield stays in the truck, which is very interesting. Some other shots in that same scene, there's a scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger is driving up to John Connor in his motorcycle, and grabs John off of his motorcycle and puts it on his. And there's like 3 or 4 shots in the original version that had, you could see the stuntman driving the bike, and it was very noticeably not Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, the guy looks nothing like Arnold Schwarzenegger. In this version, they used some CG and digitally put Arnold's face over the stuntman, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't mind little fixes like that. I think it actually enhances the movie. Adding a lot of stuff like the old Star Wars movies, changing and adding all these distracting special effects like Lucas did with the older Star Wars films, really not necessary. But this one here, I thought it kind of enhanced it. I liked it. The DNR in this is really heavy. Another distracting aspect of this new version that I wasn't big on was the fact that they really... DNR, for those of you that don't know, DNR is digital noise reduction. What that means is if there's a grain on screen or in the frame, they use a program to take the grain digitally out of the picture. And it does not work most of the time. A lot of times when DNR is used, it's very distracting, and it's no different in this. The DNR in this film is very, very heavily used, and it's not always a good thing. Certain shots that they used it in at night actually tends to throw off the black levels, which is not a good thing. They also used a lot of DNR in close-ups, and when they do that, you've got a lot of characters that look like Barbie dolls, so their skin looks like rubbery and featureless. And funny enough, another Schwarzenegger movie that they did this on years ago was Predator. They did a release of Predator where they DNR'd the whole movie, because that movie has a lot of grain in it. They really made that movie look like shit. And this one here, it doesn't look as shitty, but there are certain scenes where the picture heavily, heavily suffers because of very, very big use of DNR, like heavy usage of DNR, and it's not a good thing. I much would prefer the grain in the film to get that filmic look, because you keep the detail. In this version here, they DNR'd a lot of scenes, and it really did not do anything for the picture. However, the picture in this is the clearest this film has ever been. And that is a very good thing. As much as I didn't like the DNR, the movie has never looked so clean as it does in this version. You can see little details in clothing, in just, certain shootouts. You can see certain markings on guns. There's a lot more detail in the Cyberdyne scenes where you can see things on the desks and things on the walls. It's really, really interesting. Also, the HDR in this version is outstanding. The scenes where there's explosions, especially the scene where Arnold is shooting up the cars with the minigun in the Cyberdyne building, that scene is unreal looking with the HDR. The cars exploding, the bullet hits, the light refracting off the windows. I mean, it's outstanding. I mean, it is really, really beautiful looking. I just wish they didn't DNR so many close-ups, because certain shots, you see some of these guys and their faces, especially Robert Patrick. There's one shot at the beginning of the movie where Robert Patrick is seen in close-up in a police car, and he looks rubbery. He doesn't look like a human being, which... Again, he's not supposed to be a human being in this, but he doesn't even look like he has real skin. It looks like he's wearing rubber. It's very, very, very distracting. However, like I said, the picture in this is mind-blowingly clear. If you really don't care about DNR and you really don't give a crap about facial, features and stuff like that, you're going to love this release. I mean, it is a pristine, pristine picture that you get in this 4K release. It's just a mixed bag with other things. The sound mix in this, it's a DTS HD 5.1 mix. Again, I'm fine with that. It's an awesome sound mix. It's still very loud, very precise. It's a very, very, very clear audio mix. I liked it. I think it's actually the same mix from this Blu-ray, which was outstanding. Also, the special features on the Blu-ray disc in this are really, really great. There's a new, I think it's like a feature length, I think it's like an hour long. Yeah, there's an hour-long documentary called Reprogramming the Terminator, and that's probably one of the best documentaries I've seen on this film in a long, long time. They did a great job of getting the cast and the crew to interview again, like very recently. I think within the last couple months they made that documentary. So that was really cool to see. And also, they interview Edward Furlong in that documentary, who has been basically out of the public eye since this movie came out. I mean, he really hasn't been in anything other than American History X. And it's great to see him again, even though he's kind of a disaster. He's had a lot of problems with drugs. I'm glad that he's kind of cleaning himself up now, because he is a very good actor, and I really hope that he ends up doing more stuff. I really enjoy Edward Furlong. I think he's a wonderful actor, and it's nice to see him kind of get back into the swing of things again. Anyway, if you like Terminator 2 and you're looking for it in 4K, I mean, this is all they got right now. It's $16. It's like $17 on Amazon. It's worth it. It's not the greatest release ever. I mean, if you wanted to get this movie and you really didn't have the money for the 4K release, I say look for this version on Blu-ray. This is a phenomenal transfer of the original film, and also you get, you get two different versions of the movie in here. You get the unrated special edition and the theatrical version. This release here, again, not so happy about the color grading and the DNR and stuff in this 4K release. The regular Blu-ray on this is a little bit different in terms of the black levels and stuff like that. Still, I think it's worth a pickup if you want to see this movie in the clearest version it's ever been in. I think it's worth it, but honestly, if you really don't need to see this movie in 4K, it may be worth skipping, sadly. And that's really sad for me to say, because I adore this film. I think James Cameron is one of the greatest directors that's ever lived, and this is a masterpiece in filmmaking, action filmmaking, sci-fi filmmaking. I mean, everything. This is a masterpiece. This version here, again, it looks beautiful. There's some technical problems with it, but for now, it's probably the best we're ever going to get for this movie. It's worth a pickup for $16, $17. Any more than that, skip it. I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. Thank you for coming back to Cavanaugh's Corner. Until next time, take it easy.